to say.
Good morning,
Thank
everybody.
you
How
very much
y'all
for
doing?
listening, guys.
Yamez
You can find
here with
Yamez
Island Metal
on
Forge,
at Island Metal
and
Forge on YouTube, Facebook,
with me,
and
as always,
Instagram.
I have
You
my
can
wonderful
find
co-hosts,
Alex at
Alexis
Transcendent
and
Other Studios
Adam,
on
both
YouTube,
on the road and
Instagram,
in
and TikTok.
travel
And you can find
mode.
me, Adam, at Speedgrass Forge on
So
YouTube, Instagram, and
signals
Facebook. If you
be
have any
bouncy
suggestions for
and
Tool of the Week,
the
Metal of the Week, or
cameras
any
are
other topic, you can
funky.
leave them
How
under
are
the
you guys? I
hashtag
hope
Metal of
you
the Week
all are funky
in the YouTube community
too.
chat, in
In
Discord,
the
or you can
chat,
email us at
first in
impracticalblacksmiths@gmail.com.
second.
If you found
Shane
us on
Malone
Anchor,
was
Spotify,
first.
Amazon Music, Audible, or
Stephen
Google Podcasts,
You have a
Parsons.
we
video.
upload generally
You have a
every
video of
Wednesday,
me playing.
or you can join us
Oh, I
live
do.
every Sunday morning at 10
Don't
a.m.
I?
Eastern Standard
I
Time. That's
think it
currently
might be the outro.
12:30 a.m.
Yeah.
Australian.
Sorry about that, everybody. That was a holdover from last week. So ignore that. Anyway, as I was saying, welcome to the show. Y'all can ignore that outro at the intro. Welcome to Island Metal Forge, Blacksmiths Church, Sunday morning gathering. We have my co-hosts. We have Adam with Speargrass Forge. We have Empty Seat with Transcendental Artist Studios. Trail Dust in first. Shane Lalone, Steve Parsons, Jeff Killian, Jack Pines, Bortagov, what up? AA Metalworks, Dylan Corwin, rolling down. Thomas Goodamoot, woot, woot, woot. You're talking over yourselves. Yeah, we figured it out. And she transcended. I believe, like I said, yep, everybody except for me is in travel mode, so cameras be bouncing and signals be all over the place. If I may, I do believe that Speargrass Forge is coming at you live from the Melbourne Airport. I'm going to get strangled. He's flying up here to strangle me. And Alexis is coming to you live from the Lowe's parking lot somewhere in the other side of the country.
Clayton, New Mexico.
Clayton, New Mexico. With her is the daughters. How y'all doing?
That's you.
You first, Alex.
Tell us what y'all are up to.
Yeah, I'm just on my way back from Colorado. Took my daughters up to see my dad for the weekend, and now we left my dad's house about 6:00 this morning and headed back to Texas. Going to drop these guys off this afternoon at the house, and then I am continuing on to Austin. I've got business to attend to on Monday in Austin, meeting with state senators and representatives and whatnot, and that's my week. Just had a nice couple days at 10,000 feet elevation. Pretty all right.
I'm afraid of heights. I can't do that. Yeah,
hey, you want to
I can't even climb a 4-foot ladder at sea level.
We've all heard about what you're like driving through the mountains of West Virginia. Anyway, so yeah. As for me, as Yama stated, I'm currently coming to you live and in person from Melbourne Airport in the southern part of Australia. Reason being is I'm currently on my way to my honeymoon. So I actually mistimed a few things. I actually thought I was supposed to be in the air right now, and I'm through a comedy of errors. Being that I uploaded some information that Yamez was supposed to go through tonight. That failed. I didn't figure that out until I was on the plane. I contacted someone to try and upload it for me. They haven't made it to my place to actually upload it for me. And so then I landed in Melbourne early, and we've got a 10-hour layover. So it was kind of like, well, I'm actually able to join you tonight and do my bit, but now I've had to the research that I've done over the course of the week and made this wonderful presentation. I've had to kind of very quickly ram and speed research and come up with the segment that we were supposed to do tonight. So production value might not be as 100% as we normally do, but
Hey.
sometimes these things happen on the fly.
Yeah, and take that as a note with what you have to deal with if you work with me. Like this poor guy is working on his honeymoon. The missus is
I don't even know what
asleep.
the speed limit is right here, but that's the top.
Yeah, so
Yeah. My wife is currently having a nap right next to me, so because again, it's currently 1 a.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time.
Oh yeah, that's right. He was there when we came in, huh?
It's 1 a.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Savings Time. So we don't fly out until 8 o'clock in the morning. So I've got 7 more hours waiting here, and so my missus is having a lovely nap beside me while I'm doing my usual Sunday thing with you guys.
yeah. So.
And Sully's dodging police officers.
When you come into Clayton on the east side, you kind of come around a curve, and then there's a cop car, like an Explorer or like an SUV or whatever, sitting right there. And I mean, this is Texas, New Mexico, whatever. You don't screw around with speeding in small towns. Now, you go 100 mile an hour in between them. By gosh, when you come into town, you better be doing the speed limit, because you're doing 5 over. They're pulling you over and giving you a ticket because they know you got to mail that stuff in. You're not going to drive all the way back to take it to court. Anyway, so you come around the corner and there's a cop right there. And when I came through, I was doing the speed limit, so I was like, oh, check him out, And then as we drove by, we noticed the vehicle was empty. It's just sitting there on the corner. Well, now we're coming through the other direction, and I see him up there, and I'm doing like 60 and a 30, and I'm like, oh, I better slow down. And then my daughter's like, that's the fake cop. Oh yeah.
Yeah, but you never discount the ability for them to toss up a radar gun and camera and speed trap, and then like another cop down the line be like, oh, we got one, get them, boys. But yeah, so y'all have the fun weeks, where you're out enjoying nature and jet setting around Australia, mate. And
so to answer, because Amos actually asked me a question, and I just showed that I'm actually I watch the stream. I'm doing like I do at home. I have 2 screens. I'm watching the stream, and because I can't dual stream. But so Amos asked me where I'm headed. So I'm actually headed down to Tassie. Well, my wife and I are headed to Tassie. We're hiring a camper van for 2 weeks and basically driving around the state, going to see the natural sights. Neither of us have actually been to Tasmania before. It's one of the few places in Australia I haven't been. So having the opportunity to actually go down there and just travel around and see the sights. Tasmania is also home to one of the oldest settlements in Australia, particularly convict settlements. It's being Port Arthur. So I think from memory, from my research, they still have the original. That might not be. They still have the original building where the convict smithy was. So I'll be stopping in to have a look at that. It's also the state where Alex Norton from Valhalla Ironworks lives. Unfortunately, I won't be stopping in to see him. As far as I'm aware, I have contacted him. Unfortunately, he's a very busy man. So unless a miracle happens, I unfortunately won't be able to stop in and see him. But I will be stopping in and seeing some other friends. But mainly there to see the nature and a bit of history, and stop in and see some of the old ironwork, because we're starting in Hobart, then travelling all around the state, up to Launceston and visiting some other places as well. This means nothing to you guys, of course. It's like you guys talking about the towns and stuff around your area. I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah,
but yeah,
like
yeah.
We still listen and we give a shit. So
Yeah, exactly. So,
yeah, I mean, I went to Grandy. I went to Grandy and Coin Jock and all those exotic places. I spent a little bit of time in Jarvisburg. You know, I mean, I'm not going to tell you guys that they're just a couple towns over, but I mean, I jet set.
Yeah. So I'll be going down there and taking lots of pictures and posting them. I'll probably post them to my personal Facebook, which a few of the commenters have, but also be post them a few to my Instagram, particularly the ones regarding smithing and ironwork and stuff like that. If I find anything pretty cool, I'll post it up on the Spear Rusting Instagram so you can have a look. I'll probably also send it through the Discord so that Yumbas can post it up and show the rest of you what I'm up to. So yeah, but I'm coming from, it's been 35 degrees Celsius, which I think that's about 80 odd degrees Fahrenheit from memory. So coming from that from the Northern Territory, and I'm going down to tomorrow in Hobart. It's expected to be about 16 degrees Celsius. So that's I think that's about 40, maybe 50 degrees Fahrenheit. So it's a fairly decent jump down in temperature.
Yeah, I'd put that.
Sorry?
I said, yeah, I'd put that in the mid 40s, give or take.
Yeah. So fairly decent. I haven't been to temperatures like that, like actually actively traveled to temperatures like that going on 6 or 7 years. So I'm going to be cold.
Suck it up, Buttercup.
Well, Adam, right now in Celsius, it is 4 below out here.
You can keep that.
Roy, welcome. Roy says there's a good your mom joke in there somewhere.
Welcome to Texas.
Oh.
Yay!
All right.
Speaking of your mum jokes, right? Now, everyone has heard, particularly regarding The Office and the main character going, "That's what she said." I finally have found a comeback to "That's what she said."
Okay.
And the comeback is, "Yeah, but not to you."
How the turns tabled.
I thought that was good. When I heard that, was like, "You legend, I'll keep that." That's good.
All right. So, y'all, with your exciting weeks, like I said, I visited Exotic Grandy and Coin Jock for work. And my week, it's just been finishing up a few jobs. Actually kind of a slam jammed week. Convincing a customer to go with an original plan rather than ripping the siding off of a new construction house to change a lighting scheme, but fun stuff like that. Here at home and in the shop, not much time to do much. So, just been doing what I do. There is some weird motor going on out there. The heck is that? Anyway.
Squirrels, yeah, man, squirrels.
Right? Well, it comes across in the audio. And, but yeah, so, nothing much new from me. I did get an awesome piece of art in the mail from one Mr. Roy Adams. Roy and Jess sent me a play button. Thank you for that. That is very cool. I've got it I attached it to a magnet and put it on my door with the note they sent, so that I could look at it every time I leave the house. And it's really sweet. And here's a silly thing about how my brain works. It's a piece of metal, and I was looking for glue to glue a magnet to it to attach it to a metal door. So think how that works in your head. I was looking for glue to attach a magnet to a piece of metal. Science just failed me. Yeah,
Failed you. School failed you.
Yeah, I did not take into account the magnetic isotopes of a piece of mild steel. I got Sully looking at me like I'm crazy.
Sully, now you know how I feel, particularly when he butchers Australian.
Yep, that's my job here. Comic relief. I make fun of everybody. No, I don't. I'm just
In
kidding.
Melbourne.
Melbourne and Sydney. But anyway, yeah, I should have put some flux on it. I
Oh, come
should.
on. You know what? No, you know what? I can't count the number of times the Yaman says guillotine, and I would just want to reach you through the
Yep.
phone and just punch him right in the face.
I just want y'all to know that
hate
I
that just
pronounce guillotine
every time I say guillotine.
on purpose. I do that on purpose. I know it's guillotine.
Oh,
It's from the French. It's basically named after a French, like a type of French bread. But we'll go into that, when we get to like French Baroque history, and all that stuff. But anyway,
And that is coming up.
you what? Is it?
I said,
Yes.
that is coming up.
Yeah, chronologically it is. We might have to find somebody who specializes in Baroque ironwork to be a guest that day. If anybody knows anybody, just let me know. I mean, today's topic, though, I know it's a little bit late for it, but I mean, what are you going to do? It's our show. We can do what we want. Happy,
It's a party.
happy St. Patrick's Day. Today we are discussing, St. Patrick as pertained to, history and Celtic. Last week we discussed Celtic knots, and today we're going to discuss Celtic crosses and the forge gods, the ancient Celtic forge gods and stuff, because it all kind of intertwines and as for before anybody goes, well, what's this got to do with, blacksmithing? Well, it does. Because
It's actually got a lot to do with blacksmithing,
yeah,
surprisingly.
and even inspiration to modern blacksmiths for their artistic, like, this guy, Roy from Christ Center Ironworks, he does these Celtic cross blanks that he sells at his, blacksmithpdfs.com. And you see a lot of Celtic crosses in ironworking and modern, design, and stuff like that. So it does work. Anyway, I believe Adam has a presentation for us. Take it away, goofball.
I do have a little bit of a presentation. Sorry, the cover that I've got the iPad on has just kind of lost its stick, and the iPad has fallen off the cover. So I'm going to have to go handheld for a little while. So to start with, St. Patrick was a 5th century Romano-British Christian missionary, bishop, and missionary and bishop in Ireland. Known as the Apostle of Ireland, he is primarily a primary patron saint of Ireland, and the other 8 patron saints being St. Bridget of Kildare and St. Columbia. Patrick was never formally canonised, having lived before the current laws of the Catholic Church in these matters. Nevertheless, he is venerated as a saint of the Catholic Church, the Church of Ireland, and the Eastern Orthodox Church, where he is regarded as equal to the apostles and the enlightener of Ireland. The dates of Patrick's life cannot be fixed with certainty, but there is general agreement that he was active as a missionary in Ireland during the 5th century. Patrick was born at the end of the Roman rule in Britain. His birthplace is not known with any certainty. Some traditions place it in what is now known as England. According to the Confession of St. Patrick, at the age of 16, he was captured by a group of Irish pirates from his family's villa at Bannerfern Taverne. They took him to Ireland, where he was enslaved and held captive for 6 years, working as a herder until he escaped upon hearing what he claimed to be the voice of God. Returning to England, completing his religious education over 16 years, and then hearing the voice of God again, prompting him to return to Ireland. He writes that he baptized thousands of people, even planning to convert his slavers, and he ordained priests to lead the new Christian communities. He converted wealthy women, some of whom became nuns in the face of family opposition. He also dealt with the sons of kings and converting them too. The Confessio is generally vague, which was his writing, the Confession of St. Patrick, is generally vague about the details of his work in Ireland, though giving some specific instances. This is partly because, as he says at points, he was writing for a local audience of Christians who knew him and his work. There are several mentions of him travelling around Ireland and of sometimes difficult interactions with the ruling elite. He does claim, he does claim of the Irish, never before did they know of God except to serve idols and unclean things. But now they have become people of the Lord and are called children of God. The sons and daughters of the leaders of the Irish are seen to be monks and virgins of Christ. Patrick's position as a foreigner in Ireland was not an easy one. His refusal to accept gifts from kings placed him outside the normal ties of kinship, fostership, and affinity. Legally, he was without protection, and he says that he was on occasion beaten and robbed of all he had, put in chains, perhaps awaiting execution. Patrick says that he was also many years later a captive for 60 days without giving details. Now, legends credit Patrick with teaching the Irish about the doctrine of the Holy Trinity by showing some people the shamrock, a three-leafed plant, and using it to illustrate the Christian teachings of the three persons in one God, also by tying it to the Celtic knot. The earliest written version of this story was given by botanist Caleb Thinkeld in 1726, Synopsis Stirpen Herbanicarium. But the earliest surviving records associating Patrick with the plant are coins depicting Patrick clutching a shamrock, which were minted in the 1680s. In pagan Ireland, 3 was a significant number, and the Irish had many triple deities. A fact that may have aided Patrick in his evangelization efforts when he held up a shamrock and discoursed on the Christian Trinity. Patricia Monaghan says there was no evidence that the shamrock was sacred to the pagan Irish. However, historian Jack Santino speculates that it may have represented the regenerative powers of nature and was recast in a Christian context. Icons of St. Patrick often depict the saint with a cross in one hand and a sprig of shamrocks in the other. Another historian, Roger Homan, writes, "We can perhaps see St. Patrick drawing upon the visual concept of the Triskele when he uses a shamrock to explain the Trinity." The Triskele is another Celtic design of triple swirls. It's also a very popular pendant, was at the time, both in bronze and in iron, but also is still a popular pendant today. However, it has different connotations in different parts of the world. Ireland was well known to be a land without snakes, and this was noted as earlier the 3rd century by Gaius Julius Cilnius, but later legend credited back Patrick with banishing snakes from the island. This has been argued that this refers to the conversion or expulsion of Ireland's traditional pagan beliefs, of which the healers and priests often displayed a snake motif or medallion. It's also in Ireland, it's also popular legend that the Christian cross was introduced by St. Patrick. The distinctive Celtic cross is usually mounted on a circle, a symbol of the sun and the circle of life, and often featuring Celtic knotwork or other symbolism. It has often been claimed that St. Patrick combined this symbol of Christianity with a circle to give pagans an idea of the importance of the cross of Christ by linking it to the idea of the life-giving properties of the sun. Other interpretations claim that by placing the cross on top of a circle, it represents Christ's supremacy over the pagan sun, symbolizing God-man's death and resurrection, therefore his power over creation. These Celtic symbols received new meaning when Christianity spread through the island. The Celtic cross is now the main symbol of Irish Christianity. Similarly to this, the St. Bridget's cross, which is said to originally be the symbol of the goddess Bridget, the protector of smiths, poets, healers, and more, Celtic imagery and art was co-opted into Christian ideology in what was the Celtic areas of England, Ireland, and Scotland during this conversion period, and is distinct from continental European Christian art in its use of the Celtic knot and line work, especially in iron and stone, which can be seen in artifacts from early Irish Christian work. which due to age, few contemporaries iron examples still exist. However, they still exist primarily in stone. Now, further to this, I've got to go to my research. Sorry about this, guys.
Well,
Just
while
a
you go to
second.
that research, I will say on the Celtic cross symbol, I have found research that says that the Celtic cross symbol, in its original iteration, the arms of the cross never broke the circle, and actually predates, in stonework, predates the Christian religion,
Yeah.
being
Well,
the
there are
circle
versions of
representing
the
life.
Yeah, there are versions of the Celtic cross which actually, unlike the Christian cross, which has a longer base stem and then the smaller arms and the top. There are versions of the Celtic cross which were actually equilateral. So it was the stems are all the same size, and the circle fits just inside the four arms, and that type of thing. Has also been a love cross, a cross of life, that type of thing, and that does predate Christianity in Celtic Britain, Celtic Ireland, Scotland, Wales, and England, of course. But again, with the lengthening of the base stem, then it was co-opted by Christianity. Again, it's something that is seen throughout a lot of the Christianization of the British Isles, in that there are a lot of pagan and Celtic imagery that's co-opted into Christianity to assist that transition from a pagan or Celtic
Belief
background
structure,
into
yeah.
Christianity. Yeah. So again, to support the story of St. Patrick driving out the serpents or the snakes, the serpent, it was a symbol of rebirth to the Celts, shedding its old skin and re-emerging in the spring from the winter's hibernation, seeming to be immortal. One great serpent in that most people know of is Ouroboros, is the earth dragon, living forever in the underworld. Many Celtic healers appear with snakes in depictions, and often associated with waters, rivers, and curative springs, entrances to the underworld. Serpents are frequently found on torques and sacred neck ornaments of Celtic kings and divinities, embodying the power of the earth and eternal life. Every ancient mythology has some form of world serpent. The Celts, a symbol of her cosmic world-creating seed, with the round, shiny sea urchin. The serpent was one of the most ancient symbols of female power, and both seem to embody the power of life. The coiled serpent, with its tail in its mouth, as a circle of infinity and eternity, representing a cyclical evolution and reincarnation. So that's basically the snake link into St. Patrick driving out the snakes out of Ireland, or that's one interpretation of it anyway. So further to that, of course, the mythology of St. Bridget, which was another one of the patron saints and a canonised saint of Ireland, but many of her the mythologies surrounding St. Bridget, particularly St. Bridget's cross, which the story of that goes, her father was dying and she made a cross from reeds in order as a symbol of protection, and he converted to Christianity straight away. St. Bridget is also the patron saint of blacksmiths, poets, artisans, etc., healers, etc. All of these things are also linked to the goddess Bridget, which was a Celtic deity of the time. Now, going further, there is actually a specific god in the Irish Celtic pantheon of blacksmithing. Funnily, it's blacksmithing and beer. So his name was Gobnu. So Gobnu basically was the Celtic version of Hephaestus. He was one of a trinity of gods, being Gobnu was the god of smithing. Then there was a god of a right god. So woodworking, woodwork, and there was a carpenter god. So, but Gleipnir was so the carpenter was Luktain, and Crednir was the bronze worker, so a metal right. So basically, they were the three the three crafts gods that worked together in order to stave off an invasion from the deities, being the Fomor. So, but also so Gleipnir was also the god of beer, and it said that his brewing activities in his beer was actually what created the immortality among those that he gave to for them to become the gods. Similarly, in the Welsh tradition, that's Goffanon. So Goffanon, the Welsh Irish, the Welsh Celtic. Had a very similar pantheon to the Irish, and that's why you've got Welsh Celtic and Irish Celtic. They're similar, but of course, being isolated, they're also very different. The languages are different and such. The art forms, however, particularly during the Christianization, happened a little bit earlier in Wales, but again, being Celts, they were very, very good iron workers, and this also ties into a lot of the mythology behind King Arthur, because King Arthur was supposed to be buried on the Isle of Apples, which is and then you've got the Excalibur and the sword from the lake, which are two different swords. According to my interpretation of the stories. But again, these are all legends. But Merlin being associated with the Celtic gods as well, also being pagan. You have and Ireland being being Celtic as well. That was where King Arthur was supposedly buried. So these are all histories that tie into each other and date back to roughly the same time, the end of the Roman period, end of Celtic Britain, Celtic and Romantic Britain, going into the Christian Britain going forward, Christian British Isles. And basically, that's it, guys. That's the end of my presentation. Sorry, it wasn't as long as it could have been, but yeah. That's sometimes that we've just got to go with the flow.
Yeah. We had this whole hour-long presentation with slides and,
I did.
hand-drawn animations and voice actors and all that stuff. Huh?
Not quite hand-drawn animations.
We had a presentation.
I would have went with clay animation though.
But
yep.
But yeah, very, very solid info, and it's like I said at the beginning, a lot of people are like, well, what does this history and all that stuff have anything to do with blacksmithing? But when you really look into it, blacksmithing itself is historical. I mean, and as you found out on this channel, even prehistorical.
Yeah, and blacksmithing has always been associated with religion. It doesn't matter if that's Christianity or a pagan religion. Blacksmithing has always been associated with religion. It's either been mystical and magical in the sense of the blacksmiths have some sort of magical powers in order to, and this is even still part of and this is another topic we'll go into later on. The blacksmithing in Japan, and how there is still very much, particularly for the traditional swordsmith and the traditional metal makers, the tamahagane, there is still a very spiritual aspect to making things out of steel, out of iron. And then you look at particularly through the Middle East and through into the eastern parts of Europe during the Middle Ages and stuff like that, where blacksmithing, blacksmiths were had to be, devout Christians, because otherwise they were, considered, they could be considered to be working in league with, the devil. And then you have, later on where, you have the story of, the blacksmith and the devil, where, the blacksmith shoes the devil in such a way that, it's the reason why horseshoes, you hang a horseshoe facing up on a door for, people that want good luck, and then over the forge you're supposed to hang a horseshoe upside down to pour that luck, because the devil's afraid of the blacksmith. So these are things that that blacksmithing has always had a certain spiritual and religious aspect to it. And even going further than that, for those of you that aren't religious or aren't spiritual, going into the forge and fire gazing, watching that fire heating up metal and beating it, it's a very therapeutic thing. It doesn't necessarily have to have a mystical bit of spiritualism or whatnot, but it can still be a very fulfilling and spiritual experience for those of you that are working, even though it might not have any mystical side to it.
Yeah. As for the couple quick things that come to mind to me. One on the Blacksmith and the Devil topic. There's actually, for all you blacksmiths out there, if you haven't seen it, I watched it as a really cool movie. I watched it dubbed because, I wanted to watch it, not read it. Even though I do like dubbed movies. Aramentari, also known as The Blacksmith and the Devil, it's a film from 2017, and it's actually a really, really good movie. It's definitely worth a watch. But I'm not going to go into the details. This isn't a movie review stream or nothing, but it's a pretty cool movie that kind of touches on that subject. But yeah, as for the mystical and spiritual and all that stuff, I'm a real big fan of nature. That's how I'll put it. And blacksmithing, look at the facts. You use air to fuel a fire, to burn rocks, to work the steel, and then you quench it in water. It's got all the elements, and you put your heart and soul into your work. So it spiritually, it's a therapeutic activity. On all fronts. It's just kind of one of those. Of course, looking at the actions taken, that used in blacksmithing, and the processes, it is extremely easy to see how, throughout ancient history and, even not so ancient history, it could be construed. I just made up a word. Construed as, a spiritual or a religious thing, where something made by a blacksmith is, has that level of importance. In addition to, them being the tool makers of the time, the machinists of the time, creating the tools that built the world, so yeah, there is, for anybody who questions why we talk history on this channel, there is a direct tie-in from history to blacksmithing, because without blacksmithing, I don't think we would have gotten very far, so.
And as I can't remember who first raised it, but there's a lot of smiths that I know, a lot of people, a lot of very smart people that I know that particularly talk about, we do things as smiths, as people, a certain way, and people do a lot of things just by force of habit. But if you come to understand the why of things, you very often understand how that thing works better. So if you understand why our hammers are shaped the way they are, your straight peen, your cross peen, your ball peen, your rounding and turning hammers, and stuff like that, sledgehammers, whatnot. If you, the difference between a dog's head hammer versus a cutlass hammer, they're very similar shapes, and that's again versus a Japanese hammer, very similar shapes, but they're all slightly different. If you understand why they're shaped in those specific ways, you start to understand how they're used and better than you otherwise would have just picking them up and swinging them. I know I had that issue when I first got a French crossbeam hammer, and it wasn't until Sam Towns explained to me that I actually had it mounted upside down, and I went looking. Because I mounted it the way I thought it should be mounted, and then I started to understand the shape of those, and why is a French crossbeam hammer different to a German pattern crossbeam hammer, and then you look at why do we have all these different shapes of anvils even through history? You have your square sawyers anvil, or you have your you have your London pattern anvil, and they're very, very similar, but not exactly the same as a farrier's anvil. And you have all these different types of anvils, and when you look into the history or the reason for those anvils, you start to understand the why. And the same goes for the history of blacksmithing. Why did it develop in different ways? Why are blacksmiths in one culture venerated? Why are blacksmiths in one culture venerated, but they're demonized in another culture? And a good example of that, which we'll cover in another couple of not episodes, but in series, is the difference between the Japanese smith, which is venerated, and the Chinese blacksmith, which were the lowest of the low. They were, the Chinese blacksmithing in Chinese history. No. They were the lower class. Whereas you could get priests that were blacksmiths in Japanese culture. So those two different angles can also explain. We talk particularly. We talk about, for example, and this isn't derogatory. It's just it comes to the quality of stuff that has happened there, but Chinesium, for example, the very low quality steel that has historically come out of China. Of course, that's changing nowadays. But that might not just be a resources thing. That can also be linked back to where blacksmiths and steel stood on the hierarchy of priority with Chinese culture, and then you compare that to the veneration that something like samurai and Japanese steel has. Even though we know that it was layered iron with different hardnesses and was treated differently. That veneration is different simply because of the cultural aspect, more so than anything else, and that cultural interpretation still happens today, through not only what we do, but also through movies and mass media. So I think it's important to understand the history, and it's part of the reason why we do this, the history. Also, the speculation of things that could have happened. We've done that with Rome, and how the world could be different today had Rome continued the way it was traditionally on its path. But yeah, it's to get those brain synapses firing and thinking about why do we do things the way we do them.
Right. Yeah. History plus blacksmithing equals topics.
Of course, we have John Brunel said Swedish crossbeams, the hammer to rule them all.
Yeah.
and then Xavier Sontag, French. See, and that's the thing. Everyone has their favorite. I like my French crossbeam for some things. I have I wouldn't say Swedish, but another a Northern European style cross peen for other things. Then I have my straight peen, which is very Nordic style. That's of course Sam Towns made me. I love that hammer. And I have about 3 different rounding hammers. One that comes from Yarmez, one that comes from Sam, and another one that comes from Bob. All of which I use
Not lately.
Not lately, but all of which I have used on a regular basis, and they all are slightly different, but they all have their uses, and they're all slightly different design as well. I mean, you don't think you could go that much different design in a rounding hammer, but you'd be surprised, or a turning hammer, I should say.
And
But
mine's the best.
absolutely.
Absolutely.
Mhm. But yeah, so going through a couple of these comments, Yamas, you want to go back and go through some of the comments?
Dylan Corwin says, I've been stuck on Apple Crown and Mountain Dew lately. It tastes just like Green Jolly Rancher. Oh, that's not what you meant.
We can go in. We can go into the associations of beer and.
Oh yeah, you said beer and blacksmithing, and they just the chat just went off on a They went on an adventure.
But that's another thing. It shows you just how far back beer and blacksmithing goes.
Yeah.
It goes back centuries.
Yeah, Xavier Sontag says, as legend goes, Saint Dunstan branded the devil's face with a horseshoe, and that's why he's afraid. Bill Wheel says, I don't know, kind of mystical that we use destructive forces for creative design. And that comment right there actually resonates with me a little bit, because there's two types of creation when it comes to, artistic design, taking a lot of seemingly mismatched parts or unrelated parts and creating something completely new, or using, like we say, the destructive forces, you can't have an omelet without breaking some eggs, breaking something down to its base parts and recreating it as something new, as a form of art. So yeah, like that, in the two baselines of when you break down art and creativity, in my opinion, because it's, I'm not going to sit here and get into a scholarly debate about, there's more forms of art than that. I see it broken down as two things, two fields, taking, unrelated pieces or unrelated, pieces, be it canvas plus paint plus brush as a tool, blah, 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 to create, something new, or, finding and scavenging, parts and putting them together as a sculpture, or alternatively to that, the destructive creation, that Bill Wheel was talking about. You see that in stonework, where you take a block of stone and you beat the living snot out of it until you get the desired shapes. You chisel, you break away pieces, you destroy the original stone.
This is also an analogy that's made in Christianity as well regarding blacksmithing, in the sense of it also represents the cycle of birth, death, and rebirth. With the fact that something, iron is smelted, it's made into something, then sometimes we take that something and rebeat it and retwist it into something new. It's it's that cycle of life and rebirth. Troy from Bar Run Forge has that quote, iron sharpens iron. So these are things that have been not only passed through. And again, it comes back to that mysticism and stuff like that, or religious tie-in. How blacksmiths have always been important to not only the development of society, but the spiritual development of society as well. Because there is always, look at the amount of sayings that we have. Strike while the iron is hot.
Too many irons in the fire.
The fire, all these analogies, and there are hundreds of them. I can't list them all, but all these analogies that we have regarding smithing and how they're part of the common lexicon, these are things that were used, in sermons and passed down from generations. We've already been through. Blacksmithing has been around since 1000 BC. It's 3000 years that we've been beating on hot and iron. So it is part of who we are as humans. So this history is important.
Right.
But yeah, and then Christ and Ironworks, Roy getting in there with turning Hap at the bottom of the pile.
Yeah. Yeah, we all know Roy. Roy, in Roy's mind, the competition between his hatred for flux and his hatred for rounding or turning hammers is unequaled to none. Is equal to none.
It's the proper name for them, all right? Turning hammers.
Yeah, and for those of you listening, you hear me, and I think about this very often. You hear me, poking fun at Roy all the time. And if you're listening and you don't know who Roy or which Roy I'm referring to, it's Roy of Christ-Centered Ironworks, now at 300 some odd thousand subscribers.
I was actually just about to check that. I want to see where he's at.
He broke 300,000. I'm sure of it. But
he was 300,000 the other day.
Yeah, but which again, congratulations. But Roy is a good friend of the channel, good friend of mine, good friend of the Impractical Blacksmiths. It is all in good jest. We all poke fun at each other here. It's just what we do. But it's all part of the one big happy blacksmithing family. Christ-Centered Ironworks. Roy who? Some guy. He's just some dude. 341,000 people know who this Roy guy is. So if you don't know who this Roy guy is, I'm sorry, I can't help you.
He's been living under a rock. He's the fastest growing blacksmithing YouTuber on the platform. So go, if you're not subscribed, go subscribe.
Yeah, I'm happy to say I was in before 50,000. Way before that, I think.
We've actually discussed this before. I'm pretty sure.
I'm sure we have.
I'm pretty sure I got in sub 40,000.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure I was around 38K when I joined.
I can't remember. I've been a follower of his channel for years and years and years. And a supporter. What are they called? The green names, the members. For I think over 2 years now. Bill Wheel says the most hated blacksmith on YouTube.
I don't think that's anywhere close to accurate. Bill. I can think of quite a few other smiths that would claim that title as well, and Roy's far from the most hated. That's for sure. Yeah. Maybe most controversial. So yeah. That's basically all I have.
Yeah, I mean that was a fair good bit of information, and a fair bit of good what's the word, conversation, discussion about where all of that ties into why we talk about things like this. Because it's weird, but I have had comments and such come through which are like, oh, why are you guys talking ancient history that has nothing to do with black? It's like, well, if you only listen to the first part of the show and then you click off and go, I don't need to know about this, you miss the whole point. This is it's not quite story time with Impractical Blacksmiths, although that would be a great name. It's giving you the history and then tying it all in a nice, neat little package. And
not to mention, we've got to do something that sets us apart. We've got our good friends over the Forge Cast. Sam and Alex that do the knife making stuff and the tool reviews and all that type of thing. Because those, apart from and they also have Roy on there fairly regularly, and they have other very good blacksmiths that come in, and so they discuss the technicalities and stuff like that. Then there's the Canadian guys. I know they have a fair few guests and stuff like that as well. I can't remember the name of their channel off the top of my head, but
the Blacksmiths podcast.
No, there's another pair of Canadian guys. I forget their name. I can probably look them up on Instagram. But I've just put my phone down so it doesn't run out of charge. But there's a couple of Canadian guys that they do a podcast as well. And they're growing fairly fast. And again, they have a lot of guests and stuff like that. And we do not only we're the Impractical Blacksmiths. We do things a little bit different. And hopefully that's what you guys enjoy. Not only we coming at it from a completely different angle in that of our crew, only really Roy's a professional.
Yeah. Yeah, and back to the point of us poking fun at Roy every now and then. Again, it's more of a running gag with our channels, and we do consider him one of the Impractical Blacksmiths. So.
Yep.
I mean, mainly he stays in the chat.
Yeah, I gotta admit, I do miss the Cranky Roy videos, though.
The Cranky Roy videos? Yeah.
The original ones?
Yeah. Maybe one day when we get...
The Roy rant.
Yeah, when we get to the Baroque, the French Baroque era of ironworking, we'll tap Roy and be like, all right, Roy, we're doing a 2-hour special. The floor is yours. And... making an event because this guy's been studying pretty, hardcore the Baroque ironwork. And as you know, as everybody says, anytime we talk about it, if it ain't Baroque, don't fix it. had to be done, had to be said. Can't stop me now. Can't stop me now. Yeah.
Which I think that Roy should have like a timeline thing on his million subscribers.
Yeah.
Like how
that's coming up. That's coming up here in the next couple of weeks. He's getting nearly 100,000 viewers every few days. So keep it up, Roy.
340,000 subscribers. And so that's just exploding. So that's nearly to the level of going viral. So that's
yeah.
I'm immensely proud and privileged to be able to call Roy a friend, even a friend of the Impractical Blacksmiths, but also a friend in general. We've had some good conversations with Roy over the years, and some funny ones. Very down to earth person. Even though he said, we keep his ego in check.
Yeah.
I don't want to check your ego at all there.
As it's said in the chat and kind of agreed on, and I might even throw a poll up here for the end of the show because we are close to the end. A lot of people in the chat say they really only watch Christ-Centered Ironworks videos to watch Thomas do the actual work.
Well,
and others are saying they watch it for Jess's work.
I remember when it was just Roy. So Thomas is a great apprentice, but he's still just the apprentice at the moment.
But anyway, no, I'm not going to throw a poll up. We've got about 60 seconds or whatever before the end of the show. But yeah, I don't know if we lost Alexis. She's muted.
I know we were getting video there for a while, without any audio. So
there's been
maybe it's just because I was monologuing.
Oh, you're back.
No, I hadn't gone anywhere. It's just I couldn't get a word in edgewise, so I just muted.
I'm so sorry. Do you have anything on topics?
Like, hey, I got something to say, and it's just, again, then I was like, never mind.
We didn't actually hear you saying anything.
I didn't say anything. I was waiting for the monologue to stop, and then it never did.
So we're mute.
All right.
Sully, you need to jump in on me. When I get monologuing, I can go for hours.
So, do you have anything to
Anyways,
add?
give me 3 minutes. Give me 3 minutes, okay?
Yeah,
I'm sure we can find something to talk
yeah.
about for 3
We'll
minutes.
keep the show going for a little bit because Transcendental Artist
Actually,
Studios did start off as Shamrock Forge, so the Irish is strong in this one.
Yeah.
speaking,
Okay, I'm good now.
yeah,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead, Sally.
I don't know. I was just gonna say. Yeah, I was taking a little meal break here. We stopped in at a Sonic, and now I'm stopped so the other daughter can take a bathroom break. I don't know what I was gonna say, so.
Okay.
So, how was everyone's week? I pretty much came in late.
Well,
Yeah. Well, that's the beauty of the YouTube show is you can go back and rewatch it and find out.
yeah, we already went over all that.
Yeah.
Basically, those two are traveling, and I'm sitting here on the couch like a frog on a log in a bog, talking to a dog. Other words that rhyme with
In a
og.
branch, in a branch, in a tree, in a tree, in a bog, in a bog.
Yep, that famous Irish
Down
James
in the
song.
parlor.
Yeah,
Oh, sorry.
but
So before we finish up for tonight, someone did actually mention the unfortunate passing of the creator of the
Yep.
Hoffy Hammer, Yuri Hoffy. It did actually pass this week, the week of St. Patrick's Day, in 2023. So if you go out to your workshop, do something that we all do for one of the brothers that have fallen or
Ring
sisters
the
that have
anvil.
fallen. Ring your anvil. Particularly for someone who visibly did a lot for the craft of blacksmithing in order to bring it back into the forefront. Was a great artist, was a great designer, and is well known throughout the world for their contribution to blacksmithing. So we have lost a craftsman in the passing of Yuri Hoffman. So yeah.
He's passed on to legend.
Mm-hmm. He's gone to join Hephaestus or Vulcan or Gaban or which I believe he was Jewish, so he's probably gone to join gone up to the big forge in the sky.
I remember what I wanted to say now.
Go ahead.
Go ahead,
Adam. In your infinite wisdom and ability to do research and whatnot, have you ever encountered like any sort of cross symbology that has no like spiritual or religious connotation to it?
Yeah, I have.
No, I haven't, and I say that because whilst there are decorations of crosses, spirituality has been linked to human habitation and craft since time immemorial, and that includes the only instance where that might not be true is when there's no clear link is prehistory in cave paintings and stuff like that. A cross is almost always a man-made construct. There's nothing really in nature apart from two streams meeting that forms a cross, but the cross in that T or X shape, again, apart from maybe trees and very rarely, doesn't really exist in nature. It's a man-made thing. So there's always been some sort of religious or mystical connotation in my experience. However, Yama said that he has come across one where it's not so.
Two that are kind of similar in nature. If you haven't heard of it, there's something called hobo hieroglyphics, and it is a fascinating study. and these two tie in together. The cross, the T in Hobo hieroglyphics, signifies that this is a safe place to go if you're injured. It is a safe place to stay if you're injured, that there is somebody who checks in on this place if you need medical help. In addition to which, the medical cross is not spiritual in nature. Okay?
Are you sure about that?
I don't know. Stop it.
I can tell you right now it is, because it's linked to it's linked literally to the Knights Hospitalia, right, which were a religious order of knights during the Crusades against Jerusalem.
Okay, well then here's one for you. Native Americans used to use crosses as markers for trails. No religious aspects to it.
It's still a man-made contract, and I'm sure there's some sort of spiritual connotation to it.
Yeah. It means go this way.
But that was, well, even that one though, that was primarily after Spanish occupation. So.
All right. So, point being that's sort of worth a little delve into, but okay. Hobo hieroglyphics. Look it up. It's fascinating.
It was just a curiosity because, just in my own reflection here, I couldn't think of anything that did not have any sort of spiritual connotation to it, and I was just like, okay. I mean, the only thing I could think of that was even close is the plus sign in arithmetic, which
yeah,
kind of that shape has no
Exactly.
Exactly. X marks the spot on a pirate's map.
Strictly numbers.
Okay.
Anyway, moving on.
Yes. All right. So with that, unless anybody else has anything, we'll move into the final thoughts aspect of it. Yeah. Black Collar, I suppose, if you would like to start us off. You didn't get much speaking time. If you have any final thoughts or anything, you would like to say.
Well, if you didn't watch Yama's live stream or last show, it was like one of the naughtiest ones, so you might want to check that one out. Also, congratulations to Roy over 3,000, no, over 300,000. That's it.
Yeah.
And brain fart.
Yeah.
Anyway, I gotta get going. My niece and nephew are watching. I had to watch for him. So anyway, take care, all.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
See you, Black Claw. My final thoughts.
You're going, Black Collar.
Sorry.
My final thoughts.
Yeah.
I love history. Like I said, the original presentation I had for this was a lot more varied, had a little bit more to it. Even though I enjoyed this conversation that we had tonight regarding, the history and reasons and stuff like that, I wish I could have given you my original presentation. Unfortunately, it is what it is. Things happen. But yeah, I love history. I'm loving doing these series because it gives me the opportunity to look into, and I love smithing, and it gives me the opportunity to look into that how cultures have been built off their ability to use and shape iron into what they have today, and we've covered so far. We've covered Rome, we've covered ancient Egypt, we've covered the Mali Empire. We've covered Rome, we've covered Mali Empire, and we've covered Celtic, pretty much England, Ireland, and Scotland. Not so much Europe, but even though the Celts did come from Europe, so looking forward to moving into different other parts of the world, and seeing the diversity and what they have to offer. So hope you guys stick around. Hope you guys decide to join us more in the future. There'll be more discussions on smithing and different way it was used in different parts of the world. I have touched on a couple of them, being Japan. We've still got to cover ancient Egypt and also into China. And yeah, so that's it.
Yeah. And
Sully,
Alex?
what about you?
Yeah, my final thoughts are, man, I really like traveling. I do enjoy going to eat different places and whatnot. Now, this weekend I went to a place I've been before, but it still never ceases to amaze me when I get up there. I coming from the flatlands of Midland, Texas, and getting up there into the mountains, and you just look over, and there's this mountain over there, 10, 12, 15,000 feet elevation, just covered in snow. And it's just it's mind-boggling, and it gives you the ability to kind of slow down and appreciate the natural beauty of the world around you. And that's something we all need to do from time to time, is just kind of take a minute and look around and go, wow, that's pretty darn neat right there. And whether that's a snow-capped mountain, or a field in bloom with blue bonnets, or if it's a particular piece of artwork that you did that you're just particularly proud of, say a Celtic knot sculpture or whatever it might be. Appreciate the natural beauty of the world around you, and the world around you can appreciate you. So y'all have a great weekend. Stay out of trouble. If you can't be good at it. I'll see you guys next weekend.
Yeah, so I would just like to, show a big thank you to, you, the community, you, the viewers and listeners, those of you who are participating in the live chat, and all of the channel members and subscribers, and big shout out to those that are supporting the channel through super chats or gifting people memberships. It's amazing that we have the support. One day maybe we'll reach Roy's level of amazingness, but till then we have amazingness. Anyway, words. Huge thank you and shout out to the co-hosts. Hello.
I was just say, how about that Black Collar Ironworks dropping 50 membership subscriptions in Roy's live stream on Friday?
No kidding.
Yeah.
No kidding. Big thanks to you.
I wish you could do that on our channel, but
we don't
have that many.
We don't have that many people watching.
I wish we had 30,000, like even 30,000 listeners, let alone 300,000 listeners for the Impractical Blacksmith. That would be amazing.
Amazing. Yes.
Roy, start spruiking, mate. Start spruiking.
Spread the word. Spread the word. We do things here. But yeah, yes. So big thank you to the community, and big thank you to all supporters of all things blacksmithing. Y'all are amazing, and yeah. When we get some Impractical Blacksmiths podcast shirts, we're gonna send them to Roy, Jess, and Thomas, and require that they wear them in at least 5% of all of their videos. So as for the outro and such, would you like me to play the pre-record, or Adam, do you have it in you to do it?
I don't have the ability to do it here. I don't have my script.
Then I will
play the outro.
I will play the pre-record. So we got 59 seconds of silence from us. Roll that beautiful bean footage.
Just say, thank you very much for listening, guys.
Are you sure?
So, as for
I'll
the
find
outro
out.
and such, would you like me to play the pre-record, or Adam, do you have it in you? So, as for the outro and such, would you like me to play the pre-record?
They can hear us.
Morning, however, you should. Thank you very much for listening, guys. You can find Yames on at Island Metal Forge on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. You can find Alex at Transcendental Artist Studios on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. And you can find me, Adam, at Speargrass Forge on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. If you have any suggestions for Tool of the Week, Metal of the Week, or any other topic, you can leave them under the hashtag Metal of the Week in the YouTube community chat in Discord, or you can email us at impracticalblacksmiths@gmail.com. If you found us on Anchor, Spotify, Amazon Music, Audible, or Google Podcasts, we upload generally every Wednesday, or you can join us live every Sunday morning at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's currently 12:30 a.m. Australian Central Standard Time on Monday morning. However, you should check that against your local time, and that's located at the Island Metal Forge YouTube channel. Finally, thanks for joining us, and don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button, or give us a star rating if you found us on one of the podcasts, and we appreciate your support. Now,
and we're back. All right. Yeah, I apologize. There was a little bit of audio confusion with where I muted what. But yeah, so that was our show. Thank you. And that will be edited out, I'm sure, for the podcast, in addition to the issue with the beginning, where we played that media source at the beginning. But that's what we do. That's what we get for doing all this live. All right. Thank you for showing up. And I will see you guys all tonight. I do not know what I will be working on, but it will be fun. Let's go do it. All right.
Celtic Cross.
Right.
Bye, guys.
If you don't mind, could I get you to make me a gas mask? I'm going to need it if I keep riding with these girls any longer.
Yep. We all know girls fart a lot.
It was you.
A lot. Of course it was. All right.
It wasn't me.
Bye. Yeah, it was. All right.